Hey folks, my name's Kevin and it's time for a little bit more knife nerdery, and today we have an unboxing of a knife I've been wanting to check out for a really long time. This is the North Arm Skaha II. And yeah, I am a little bit late to this whole Skaha bandwagon, but part of the reason for that is that these knives became really hard to come by. They are on a book spot waitlist system, and sure, there's a bunch on the aftermarket, but it means that I kind of just forgot about it because I wasn't able to buy one easily right away. And so I kind of forgot that the knife even existed, honestly. And it's kind of fitting. I'm intentionally using a TRM Neutron. I don't have my Addendum out with me at the moment. It's on loan to Marco over at Knives of the Round Table. Shout out to Marco. But that would actually be the better size comparison. But this is another knife that, is really hard to come by. You have to get in small batches, and it's like a small batch production knife company. And it's also kind of similar styling. We'll see. So that's why I ended up using that. Wow, that kind of blends right in with the backdrop. I got this new blue background. I don't know. I'll give it a shot, see if I like it. Okay. But I did end up picking one of these up on secondary, and they come with this little stuff, so that's cute that he sent that. Right off the bat, this is adorable. And one of the reasons why I really wanted to check this knife out is because this is another even smaller. Like, TRM is a small batch production knife company, but they've got employees and an entire regal production shop, if you will, and they, so it's very small batch, but man, they are at least they've got a full setup. And these folks is literally a dad and his son, Mike and John, up in Vancouver, Canada. So one of the reasons I want to check this out is, like I said, incredibly small batch production knife. Also, because they're from Vancouver, Canada, and I live in Portland, Oregon, and that might not sound like the same thing to you, but Vancouver, Canada is what, 3.5 hours north of me, and so Pacific Northwesters got to stick together. Also, Mike is a engineer, and he spent his entire career an engineer in the software space specifically, and I work with computers, and I'm an engineer, and so this is his kind of retirement passion project thing, and that is just something that I admire so much and so relate to so much. I could absolutely see myself doing that when I get tired of being in the tech world. This is yeah, I love stories like this. I love their little whole small thing. So I've always wanted to check out one of their knives from that perspective. And then also people just say they're really good knives. So let's finally get our hands on this. There we go. So I got one of the red G10, and right off the bat, that feels fantastic. I also really wanted to see how they're doing their G10 and their contouring, because man, TRM does fantastic contouring on their G10, and this is really, really nice too. People often compare this to a flipper version of the Addendum because of the size. You can see right off the bat it is bigger, and this is a 3.3 inch blade. This is a 3, and the Addendum's 3.3. So I always kind of wanted to see from that perspective. Well, is what it would be like to have a flipper Addendum. Let's give this a shot. Oh, the click on that. Wait, I gotta do that again. Oh my god, wait, also. Whoa! Okay, I gotta get past that Detent. Where's that? Oh, the action on that is incredible. So one of the things that makes this not a flipper Addendum is that the Addendum and the Neutron are on washers and have a very washer kind of feel knife. They have really great snappy action, and they are easy to close, but they're definitely gonna be that shaky kind of thing. And this, being on bearings, that requires almost no effort, and it just shakes home. Wow. Okay, let's look at this. This is one of the older versions that has the CNC milling pattern right there on the blade. And that's right off the bat setting this off on how this knife is made. If you look at something like the Grimsmo Norseman, for example, that is also CNC milled, and they have the grind marks right there on the blade. They have since switched over to using a more standard kind of, I don't know what their process is. I don't know if they're grinding it on a belt. I don't know if they're grinding on some kind of disc grinder. I don't know what they're doing. But the point is they're no longer doing this CNC blade. And honestly, if I'm being completely honest with you, from a pure functionality standpoint, that's probably an improvement. The new version has a really kind of glowing, cloudy halo version of a stonewash that looks gorgeous in pictures. And from a pure, let's get technical, what's going to cause more kind of friction standpoint, yeah, that'll be better. Do I anticipate this being a problem? No, not at all. This still feels very nice and smooth. And I personally am one of the folks that wanted one of these older versions just because I think it looks freaking cool. I just think it looks different and unique. And since I am such a nerd about how things are made, I love that kind of a process conversation about how, I am the type of person that could, when I retire, or even not, just like quit my job and get into CNC milling, because that kind of stuff is really, really fascinating to me. So getting to see that kind of reflection in the work itself, getting to see the process in the work is something that I personally find really, really cool. This knife is an S35EN, and one of the things that also kind of sets North Arm apart, they really hit it big with this Skaha, and this is Skaha II. I'll have to look up more what the original Skaha was like and how different it is. But they also made, and I think actually started in making kitchen knives. And so they used to have this same kind of milling pattern on the kitchen knives too, which I thought looked really cool. And honestly, on a kitchen knife, that is almost appealing, because you'll find a lot of kitchen knives will have some kind of scalloping on it or something that tries to break the surface tension with something like a potato so that it doesn't stick to the blade. But they have since switched that one over as well. And the new ones, they look great. I'm probably going to pick one of those up. I don't need a new kitchen knife at all. I'm perfectly happy with my kitchen knives, but theirs look amazing. But the reason why I mention all that is because they're making kitchen knives in S35EN. And yeah, S35EN these days is not the creme de la creme of steel, but it's a fantastic steel. And you compare that to what's in the standard kitchen knife, even high-end kitchen knives, like high-end consumer level kitchen knives. You look at something like the Wusthoffs and Henkels of the world. They don't tell you what their steel is. It's a proprietary steel house, but they're not using something as good as S35. That's for sure, both in terms of edge retention and stain resistance. Actually, they might be using something that's even better in stain resistance, but certainly not in edge retention. And S35 is a great, great steel choice for something like a kitchen knife, and also for something like an EDC folder. So I'm very pleased to see that. I will say that as of right now, I'm recording this in February of 2022, and they actually now do their paring knife and the kitchen knife in MagnaCut, which honestly, I'm going to go out on the limb and say is a perfect steel for a kitchen knife. Super, super, super rust resistant and really, really high. What is that? What's the word I want? Blanking. The word that they use for strength. Whatever, it doesn't matter. Point is on a kitchen knife, like a chef's knife, man, where you want it to have good edge retention for slicing chicken breast, for example, but you want it to have good flexibility and won't chip. So if you do have to chop through something thicker, man, I think MagnaCut, I hope that they go switch over to that for their kitchen knives in general. I'm not one of those people that's jumping on the MagnaCut bandwagon just because it's trendy, but for a chef's knife, holy crap, that'd be the perfect choice. For a folder, honestly, it'd be better than S35EN, because there's nothing wrong with S35EN, but I think MagnaCut would probably be better. Maybe they'll switch to that too. It's kind of hard to get, but as far as let's look at some of the things going on here. They have a wire deep carry clip. This is a pretty shallow one. So I think this is going to be one of my initial kind of gut reaction complaints, is that even though this is recessed right here, which is great, the entire thing is recessed down deep enough, and that bubble-headed screw sticks out just enough that you don't have a ton of clearance right there. I don't imagine this to be a problem on the jeans I normally wear, but if you wear really, really thick pants, I could see that being a problem. Right off the bat, the placement on that is what's jumping out at me. Wow, that's really so smooth. This could so easily be right there. This could so easily be a full deep carry. Let's look at where that is mounted. You can see that this on this side is a full G10 scale. There is no anything here, but there is a hardened washer, I believe, underneath the bearings on that side. But on this side, can I get that to show up? Maybe if I put something really light and bright in there. Yeah, that reflects the light up into it. On this side, you can see that there is a liner. That's how they're doing this liner lock, but it extends all the way back here. And you can see that is where that screw is coming in. So theoretically, in order to extend this backward, they would need to extend that liner back. But I'm going to go out on a limb and say they could probably instead move this back post down. Let's see if that's true. No, they couldn't. They couldn't move that back post down. They would interfere. So they would need to extend that liner back in order to be able to move that screw back. This is the Skaha II, so maybe there'll be a Skaha III at some point. So hey, North Arms, if you ever happen to see this video, I would love if you made a Skaha III with that all the way back there. What else would I say? This is a pretty normal kind of degree of closure. It's nothing crazy, but I will say that that kind of degree of closure till you hit the detent ball is the kind of stuff that matters mostly on flipper tab knives. And so it's nice to see that I'm up on the detent ball right here without crushing my finger. It could be even better. Part of what's going on is this flipper tab sticks backward. And so like I am hitting my finger, but it means it does this thing really, really well. Yep. So that's falling to my finger, and I'm already up on the detent ball. Now this is so fluid. This is like so little resistance right here. Is there any blade play in this? Absolutely none. Whoa, holy crap, wait a minute. There is zero blade play whatsoever on this, and yet this is like utterly zero resistance. And what it means is that even though I'm on the detent ball, if I do too much of like a forward motion, I'm going to pop it back open. So if I instead let it fall to my nail, it's hard to do this underneath the camera because I don't have a lot of vertical space, but just go down, that's how you get the closure. So the fall to the nail way, but I do think it'd be even a little bit easier if this didn't quite stick out as far. That's gonna be my other main visual complaint, is that this is kind of an eyesore flipper tab. I don't mean that it's like outright ugly, but it's the kind of thing that sticks out in a way that doesn't really feel integrated into the design. And sometimes flipper tabs feel like they look like they belong as part of the design. This thing is maybe what Nick would call a pocket pecker. And in fact, he probably does call this a pocket pecker. But to me, they did such an incredibly good job of smoothing this out and rounding this. In fact, that's basically a mirror polish this entire way. That's incredible. That while it might be like hitting stuff in your pocket, this isn't scrapey at all. This definitely is not going to scrape anything in your pocket. And functionally, I think it works really, really well. What I would probably do if I were them is just extend this outward, just so that it doesn't look quite so like a weird little jabby thing popping up. And that would also mean that you would extend this outward, and that's probably why they're not doing it though, because right now my gut says, yep, you can really easily choke up there. This isn't what I would call a full-size finger choil. If you've got big fingers, that's not gonna really quite fit. But if you have even moderately sized fingers, if I try and use like the thickest part of my finger up here, that still fits perfectly fine. And especially for me, I've got medium-sized glove hands. This is actually very usable. And with the jimping right there, that's actually quite simple. You can see also that this edge has been cut back. Like this is not sticking straight down, it's going out that way, which means that it's not jabbing into my finger as I go there. How does this fit in hand? Ooh, you know, it's weird that it took me 13, 14 minutes into a video to feel this, but oh my God, that feels good. This is definitely not trying to be an atom or a neutron in terms of the thinness quality. This is so much more round, but wow, does that fill out your hand beautifully. If you love your atom but don't like how thin it is, then this would be right freaking up your alley. Wow, that feels nice. It's obviously not going to carry as well in that dimension. I think they quote the total handle thickness is something really crazy high. On their website, they say it's like 0.64. I wonder if they're including the clip in this. But this is definitely thick, but it's not big in this dimension. Like if I, again, hold that up again, let's see that. Again, this is a neutron, but like they're about the same in that dimension. And that's usually one of the bigger things in terms of how a knife is going to carry in your pocket, because the more it sticks out this way, the more it's going to be difficult to get your hand in past it or have other stuff in your pocket at the same time if you carry it in the same pocket as like your wallet or something like that. And so it's not going to be a problem in that direction. And that extra thickness really does feel nice here. But the bigger thing I'm noticing is just, in addition to the thickness, wow, like they really did a standout, spectacular job on this milling. And you can also see, just by reading the contour lines, you can see that this spot is taller than this spot going down, which means it also swells back up here at the top, which means that you've got kind of like a resting spot, a pinching spot. If you're holding it in a pinch grip like this is going to kind of nestle in your fingers. And if you move up to here, yeah, you can, it's not like it's a big divot, but you can feel that this spot is kind of locking your fingers in. I am genuinely really, really impressed with the ergos of this knife. It's going to be one of those things that's like kind of neutral. There's no like big choils anywhere. And the lock bar axis is so simple and good that even though this is another thing that I'm noticing right off the bat is just look how like tight this is. There's very little space on either side, and there's very little gap between here. That's partly this is very thin blade stock. It's not as thin as Addendum, and Addendum is 90 thousandths, 0.09, and this is 0.1. But that's still incredibly thin. That's very, very thin, slicey blade, and that's about the same height. Yeah, there's a lot in common. The blade profile itself, again, this is a neutron, not an atom, but the blade profile is going to be the same in the two. And if you look at the general shape, I totally get where we're coming from here in this comparison, because in both of these knives, what we have is a very low sloping drop point, and that's fantastic because it gives you a very low tip, which means it's very easy to use that tip without having to tilt your hand all the way down. And then we have a mostly flat spot and some bevel. And yeah, those blade profiles really do look similar. And I think the blade profile on this is just fantastic for EDC use. And I think this is going to be right up that too. Yeah, I want to also comment right there. Look at that. Part of what they've done really, really fantastically is pulling this back side of the grind up into this plunge grind, because this plunge ends right there. That's at the very, very top of this entire spot here. So you have this entire distance as for sharpening. Yeah, I'm really, really impressed with this. I didn't know if I would like it. It's not that I didn't know if I'd like it. I just didn't know if it would feel like redundant to me, given that I have an Addendum and that I have a neutron and that I have other knives in the same kind of category. But those, first of all, are not flippers, and I do like flipper knives. And the action on this is just bonkers good. That is so freaking good. And especially given that this is so more hand feeling, this really does stand out and seem like a worthy addition into a collection that has something like an Addendum or a neutron in it. Yeah, I am blown away. Hey, John, Mike, you did real good. This is cool. This is impressive. I am going to do a full small details review on this. And yeah, look at the blade to handle ratio. Wow. Yeah, you guys did great. I'm impressed. I will definitely be following your company from here on forward. I already was, but like I said, I kind of almost forgot that this knife existed, and I'm really glad that it popped back up on my radar, because dang, this is freaking cool. Okay, fine. I'm gonna have to film an addendum. So I was sitting here just noticing how incredibly snappy this thing is. If you just barely try to pull back on it, it still flings out with this really crisp break. And if you try and do this with any force, my God, that is snappy. And I was thinking about how just like crisp, this kind of clicky, this pop is right here. And so I was talking to Kevin, aka Lefty EDC, about how I'm a year or two late to finally trying one of these. And he goes, yeah, I can't wait to see what you think about that Detent nub. And I went, that what now? And I had no idea this thing has a Detent nub. And that is the single most me feature about this. And I didn't even know it was there. And he said that's the reason why he thought I would have gotten it in the first place. And under any normal circumstances, I would completely agree. But I genuinely didn't know they're doing that. Check this out. Yeah, that is a Detent nub. Now, I haven't taken this apart yet, so I can't tell yet whether or not this is a like a milled in Detent nub that's milled into this bar itself, the way that like Sharp Eye Design, Brian Nadeau, or the Haptics, Holtz do, or if this is just a really oversized Detent ball that they have then flattened along the top and polished. I can't tell. I'll figure that out for the full small details review. But what you can see is that this is a wide, flat surface with a crisp edge. And that's going to give us two things. Partly that's giving us that crisp break. As we pop out of here, there is none of the standard mushy roll off over the top of a detent ball. And so this is just going to be right that one crisp edge, and that's it. The other thing it's giving us, if you look at the way that this rolls right here, yeah, that flat surface is gliding over the tang. And in a normal circumstance, you would have a detent ball providing a single point of contact over that tang. And so one of the things that this is doing is giving us, or contributing to this action, this incredibly smooth action. When you have a nub like that, that's doing two things. One is it's distributing the force of the lock bar over a larger surface. And you might immediately think, hey, doesn't that mean that you're going to have even more friction? You're going to have a larger surface that's rubbing. And that's true in a sense, but partly what's countering it though is that there's only the same amount of force, and so that force is being distributed over more space. So each individual spot has less force on it than compared to all of that force on a single point of contact. And then because you can also polish that surface, it means that you can get that kind of smooth, washery feeling action of a polished flat surface rubbing against a polished flat surface that whole time too. And so, yeah, this just feels so smooth and is so easy to do like that, and you don't get any of that kind of grinding feeling you would get from a detent ball wearing a path in. I can't believe I didn't know that about this knife, so thank you, Kevin, for pointing that out. I feel foolish for not knowing it, but that just makes me like this even more. And especially since I went in going like, hey, this is designed by an ex-engineer, and I relate to that, this just makes it fall even more in that category for me. So really freaking cool job, guys. Okay. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys next time.